Today, I'm going to try to beat a hardcore Nuzlocke of Pokemon Emerald with only Steel-type Pokemon. Now, I'm going to be honest, this run has been designated as being strictly impossible by the Nuzlocking community, and for good reason. Steel types themselves are known to be quite great Pokemon, with good resistances and solid overall base stats apart from speed. But from no Steel-type encounters being available until after the first gym, to the limited number of overall encounters you can get, combined with insanely challenging trainers that will wall you almost entirely, especially in the early game, no one has been able to beat this challenge legitimately. It's almost like Game Freak designed the game to counter anyone even attempting this. Some have tried and failed, some have given extra bonus encounters to soften the difficulty, but no one has succeeded with what the game itself gives you. What I'm going to try to do today is try to beat this game in an as legitimate way as possible, with the help of a particular event distribution. With that said, let's see if we can beat Pokemon Emerald with only the first Steel type that we find on each route, no items in battle, level caps in place, and the battle mode on set at all times. After a healthy dose of moving truck Stockholm syndrome, we make it inside our new house where Vigoroth constitute our moving workers. Alright, wait, how did the four of us all fit in a two-seater truck? Who was with me in the back? Or do I even want to know? As always, our absentee father even avoids us when he's on the television. Before we then move ahead to find Birch, the professional Pokemon researcher having troubles with, a Pokemon. So it's time to help him out. I choose Trico as our starter, thereby giving ourselves an even harder challenge, as May's going to inevitably pick Torchic now, a starter who evolves into a Pokemon with two types super effective against ours. Great. And where's our first encounter going to be, you might ask? Well, it turns out to be in this appropriately designed box in our PC. As boxing Canelo the Trico, we can grab a Beldum that I named Hitachi. Now, where did this come from? Well, you see, back in the day in 2005, there was an English Metang distribution from the Pokemon Rocks America event. Legitimate copies of it are accessible out there, but there is one problem. It's distributed at level 30, meaning it would automatically violate the level cap. So, call it breeding, call it simply modifying it to make it fit within our rules, but our starter is going to simply be a lower level version of this event Pokemon, a Beldum maintaining its event moves and everything. It has a bashful neutral nature and also something called the National Ribbon from the event, which I'll show you guys in a bit as we're not able to see ribbons yet. Testing out Hitachi in battle against May, fortunately she doesn't actually have any fire moves yet, so a couple neutral confusions do the trick, with resisted tackle hardly hurting us. I have a feeling I'm going to miss May being so weak. For winning, we get awarded with Pokeballs, and here is one of the major changes that were made between Ruby and Sapphire and Emerald. In the original, she gives you Pokeball, singular, despite giving you 5 of them. Pluralizing words is what we paid that extra $40 for back in the day. Well, I suppose there were also new battles, the entire battle frontier, new encounters and areas. Okay, yeah, I get it. Picking up some Oranberries is our next objective, as damn are we ever going to need them, before I cross over this girl trying to battle us completely. Arriving in Petalburg, we can pay a quick visit to our dad, who says, "So, you're all finished moving in?" "Yeah, no thanks to you." I love how he then tells us to help Wally catch a Pokemon despite no guarantee that we've actually done so yet, nor that anyone has taught us how to do it. A trip through the Petalburg woods has us arrive in the first gym destination, Rustboro City, where we can pick up the Cut HM and then also hit up the trainer school to find a creepy old dude standing in the back of the classroom wearing sunglasses indoors. Before we then talk to the teacher, who literally just said he punishes his students by clawing them with the Quick Claw. Is this a dystopian video game? I thought this was a pleasant kids adventure. Well, it's time for the Rustboro City Gym, led by the first gym leader, Roxanne, the rock-type specialist. And with our type advantage, I'm not too worried about her, as our event-exclusive Beldum also has Metal Claw, despite Beldum normally learning nothing but Takedown, which would make this strictly impossible due to the resistance and recoil. But not only that, we're able to 2-hit KO each one of her Geodudes, with them only hitting us with Rock Tomb, but that doesn't even drop our speed, as Beldum has the clear body ability, meaning its stats cannot get lowered. This thing is a certified Roxanne destroyer, as her Ace Nose Pass can do nothing but harden and tackle, and we even have an answer to her defense increases in the form of Confusion, a special move, allowing us to get the victory after several attacks, only taking a quarter health damage across the whole battle. That made this run seem deceptively easy, but I fear our nightmare has only just begun. Okay, normally as a Canadian I like to make a joke about meeting the president here, but I think given the timing I'm gonna instead just note that we can get the Pokénav here, and that will allow us to see our ribbons eventually. We're we're gonna move on. Alright, this just has to be a Dream World reference. There's just no way. Or maybe this is what gave Game Freak the idea to pursue the Dream World later in Gen 5 in the first place. Seems very coincidental if not. A trip across the sea has us arrive in Dewford Town where the next gym is, and after grabbing the Silk Scarf to boost our normal moves, we can hit up the Granite Cave to the north of the town where we can find a brand new encounter. The first actual in-game one of the run, as in the basement we can find an Aeron which I catch and nickname Lenova, and who has a quirky neutral nature. Awesome. We also encounter our Steel-type arch nemesis Steven down here who gives us the Steel Wing TM, and for once I think this will actually come in handy. But enough time for celebration, as we've got a big challenge up next, the second gym leader Brawly the Fighting Specialist. Preparing for this team, there's not a whole lot we can do, but with one of our Pokemon being 4 times weak to his type, I must admit I'm a little nervous. Against his Machop, I go in with Hitachi, outspeeding him with Stab Super Effective Confusion for big damage, after which we get hit with Karate Chop, but despite its high crit ratio, he doesn't get one, so another takes him down without much of a threat. Nice. In comes his Meditite next, a Pokemon that can only get damage off on us with 2-turn Focus Punch, so our best option is just to repeatedly hit it. With that said, I do not want it to be able to get a Reflect Up, but he goes for Bulk Up. Not ideal before I hit him with Takedown, but at least it's not Reflect, as now he starts trying to hurt us with Focus Punch so we can Confusion him twice in a row to disrupt his focus and get the KO on the second hit. Wonderful. His final Pokemon is then a big threat, Makuhita, as Confusion does over half surprisingly, and then he hits a Vital Throw, and it does huge damage to below half, but our Oranberry helps us out. However, he has a Citrus Berry which nearly heals him entirely. I cannot switch here, so we just have to hope that he doesn't crit, but oh, he used Bulk Up. Okay, as a final attack takes him down and wins us our second badge. Whew. That got dicey towards the end, but an error on his side clutched it for us. Slateport City is then upon us, where we can pick up the Soft Sand to boost future ground moves of ours, although I do wonder what the difference between that and the thousands of tons of sand is on the ground. Okay, not gonna lie, this reminded me of the Chick-fil-A lineups I've seen in Canada lately. I think there are like grand openings of it here since it's an American chain. I don't know, I've got no idea, but I do know that people are going absolutely crazy over it up here, waiting hours in line just to get in. The museum here hosts the Thief TM, so we can get metal coats off of wild Pokemon eventually, and facing the Team Aqua Grunts, weirdly enough, Lenova is actually the better choice against their Carvana, as they don't have any water moves yet and she resists their dark type attacks. Picking up some cherry berries along the way for what's upcoming, we end up facing some annoying Plusle and Minun double battle trainers, which gets Hitachi to level 20, where he evolves into a Metang. Wicked cool and good timing too, as those of you familiar with Hoenn know about the infamous Route 110 rival battle that you're thrust into here. Having trained our Pokemon to level 21, I'm not feeling too bad about this, but she's got some problematic tricks up her sleeve for sure. I have to lead with Hitachi against her Wingull due to its Water Gun, which she does use, then we hit her with Takedown for the instant one-hit KO. Okay, Hitachi's got some newfound power, but then in it comes Combuskin. I guess it escaped from Chick-fil-A. Fortunately, Hitachi's like the one steel type not weak to fighting as she goes for focus energy, then Confusion nails her below half. And wham! A critical hit, instantly wiping Hitachi off the map. Oh boy. I then send in Lenova out of desperation, but she's got Stab 4 times super effective double kick against us, and the first gets a crit as well to knock out our second and final Pokemon. Okay, that was a disaster, and that was with us being lucky Wingull didn't use Supersonic right off the bat. Yikes. Resetting the game entirely as per Nuzlocke rules, I made it all the way back here with a couple new team members, Hitachi the second, who has a hardy neutral nature, and a male Aeron, Lenovo, who has a jolly plus speed and minus special attack nature, pretty great, and also Rockhead instead of Sturdy, the latter of which doesn't really work in Gen 3 like it does now, so I'm happy about it. Getting us up to level 22 this time, and furthering our EV training, it turns out that singular extra level allows Hitachi not only to outspeed Wingull, so we don't have to worry about Supersonic, but also Combuskin too, who apparently only has a 55 speed stat? Kinda bad actually, I'm surprised. Guess I fell for that Blaziken speed boost propaganda. This is why media literacy is important, kids. This means she only gets a chance to set up focus energy before not being able to actually attack, getting 2-hit KO'd without a problem. problem. Her final Pokemon is then Lombre, which suffers the same fate with 2 takedowns for the victory. Okay, I guess I should have paid more attention to that speed tier. That was a lot more manageable. I think you should train harder for next time. Oh, screw you. There won't be a next time. Okay, yes, technically there will. I just thought that sounded cool. Making our way through the rest of the route brings us to our next gym destination, Mauville City. But it's definitely procrastination time, as I am straight up terrified. So I pick up the coin case for the game corner so we can get Psychic for Hitachi and also the Rock Smash HM too. Ah, Verdant Turf Town, the clean air, the beautiful plant life, the kind people, the lack of scary gyms, and okay, let's go take on Watson for fuck's sake. Now, I spent forever planning for this battle, between infinite ways to paralyze us, Sonic Boom for guaranteed damage, and Shockwave everywhere which can't miss despite accuracy-lowering moves like Mudshot that we do have, and Magnet Pull on Magneton, meaning whatever's in when he comes out has to stay out. This theory crafting nearly drove me nuts, but after performing as many calculations as a man trying to lie to his wife, there might be one way through this. But we have zero room for error, meaning no misses, no crits, nothing. Let's cross our fingers. I lead with Hitachi against his Voltorb, and I was really hoping he'd just self-destruct here, but nope. He uses Spark, but no paralysis. Psychic then brings him below half, and on the next turn, boom, he does self-destruct, and we're left on 2/3. With that said, as planned, we do level up, which is allowed in Hardcore Nuzlocke. You just have to be at or below the level cap when the battle starts. And here is a pivotal part of my plan. His incoming Electrike uses Howl, and then my calcs were correct as we barely don't KO with Psychic, a good thing. You see, this means I now know he's going to Potion, so I can freely switch in Lenovo, who I need to conserve as much HP as possible as he's going to be stuck in for Magneton. And here I go for Rock Tomb, as he uses Howl again, thank goodness, and bam, we do land it. This is going to lower his speed, and I got our speed EVs to the point where we can now fully accurate Mud Slap for the KO and the level up. Whew, so far so good. But then in comes the big threat, Magneton, and I am praying we can make it through this. He outspeeds us and goes for Sonic Boom for 20 HP damage, after which Mud Slap does less than half. I was hoping he'd go for Thunder Wave as I had a Cherry Berry attached, but I guess not. Damn. But to activate my plan, he hits us again to half, and then I go for Rock Tomb instead, and we land it. Why go for a resisted move? Well, this will bring him in range of another Mud Slap instead of bringing him into Potion range, and it drops his speed, and with just one more speed point than him by design, we land the Mud Shot first, but no! He survives on like 1 HP! You've gotta be kidding me! My whole plan is shot. But at least he does miss Thunder Wave thanks to the Mud Shot accuracy drop, but it didn't really matter because of our berry anyway. He then heals almost fully, but I'm hoping that almost allows us the 2-hit KO. As we bring him to half, then we hit him again, but nope, a Sliver again, and he lands Thunder Wave this time, but our berry heals us, and we can outspeed for the KO after that. Sheesh, that was scary. But it's not over yet, as his ace is yet to come, Manectric. I stay in, hoping we can tank one Shockwave, but he goes for Howl, so we do get a Rock Tomb off. He then hits Shockwave on the next turn, and we survive on just 4 HP on a Sliver before landing a second Rock Tomb. Amazing, but his Citrus Berry heals him massively. I have to switch here, so in comes Hitachi, who's already hurt, and Shockwave slams us just below half of our current HP. Well, it's over, as I go for Psychic to bring him low, outspeeding thanks to the speed drops, but then, oh, he went for Thunder Wave, and I also had a Cherry Berry on him too, which means, no way, but it looks like Psychic might not be able to get the range here. I have to risk the 85% accurate takedown, and we landed to clutch the battle with no losses. I couldn't believe it. There were like 3 times I thought that battle was over, but our plan, backups, and failsafes all made it so we scraped by. 3 badges and a well-deserved victory, I'd say. With the 3rd badge in hand, we can now smash the rocks in the Rust Surf Tunnel, for which we're thanked with the Strength HM, giving us a slightly weaker normal move than Takedown, but with higher accuracy and no recoil. A good trade-off in my opinion. A long journey up north brings us to Route 113, where I accidentally missed one patch while cleaning all the suit off, and I promise you I'm not trying to make one of those videos that are meant to purposefully trigger people, which is actually the location of our next encounter. Water, which is just a 5% chance to find, so naturally I saw all 4 billion Spindaforms in the process. We eventually found it though, a Skarmory which I catch successfully and nicknamed Dell, who has a serious neutral nature. Totally fine with that. In the contest hall in Fall Arbor Town, this kid says he's gonna play dumb and then shock his opponents by winning the title. Everyone, this is my son now, and I am proud of him. In a house nearby, we can pick up a great TM, Dig, despite it only being 60 power in this gen. And in true MLG fashion, I'm gonna sneak behind this house to get Persiberries the only way possible until now. And yes, it was YouTube comments that made me realize you could even make it behind this house. My comments were half full of people telling me that you could do so, and half people responding to those people saying that they never knew that. It really looks like you shouldn't be able to, but hey, you can learn a lot in 20 years. Quick friendly reminder that Meteor Falls is one of the coolest places in all of Pokemon. Okay, let's continue.
Sir? Is this out of your seat? Is this came out of your seat?
Atop Mount Chimney, we have our first major Team Magma showdown as Leader Maxie challenges us to battle, and boy does he ever have one of the biggest imaginable threats for a Steel team, Camrupt. A fire and ground type, but I think I've got a plan for him. He leads with his Mightyena with Intimidate, so I go in with Lenovo just to take it, and then switch immediately into our newly caught Dell. And just as I hoped, he used Sand Attack, but our Keen Eye ability makes us immune to accuracy drops, so we can slam him with a Steel Wing to half. We also resist Bite, so we can hit him again to just a sliver, and then he Super Potions. Another hit brings him low, and then he preemptively switches into Camrupt. Yikes. But with our HP and Special Defense EV training, I'm feeling safe to go for a Peck here to bring him to half, and then he hits us with an Ember below half and burns us. Oh man. Now, despite our berry helping, it's too risky to stay in, and our attack is lowered, so I have to switch. I go into Hitachi, who tanks Ember for a third, and no burn, so I land a Strength, and it doesn't do enough. But he uses Focus Energy, perhaps not seeing the range here, so we get another hit to take him down. Mightyena then comes back out, and our Clear Body ability blocks Intimidate, but even still, a crit Bite would be risky, so I switch into Lenovo, who resists it, get hit by Sand Attack unfortunately, and then we miss Metal Claw. Ugh. Thankfully, Bite can't really do much against us, so a Metal Claw on the next turn takes him down. His final Pokemon is Zubat, and Lenovo is the perfect counter, although we did get confused, hit ourselves, have lower accuracy, and he goes for the flinch with Bite too. I know there's such a thing as Paraflinch strats, but what is this? Accurate Confuflinch? Whatever it is highly annoying. But eventually, Lenovo makes it through after being taken super low despite our berry, nailing a stab super effective Rock Tomb to smash that thing to the ground and win the battle. I also make sure to grab the Meteorite so I can exchange it for a great TM later. And in all of the attempts I've seen of people trying this run, the next gym leader seems to be among the craziest challenges. But I think most people forget about something. You see, in Emerald there are move tutors around who can teach a move only once to a Pokemon of yours, and in Mauville there's a guy who teaches Rollout, which I have Lenovo learn. It'd be great if the Pokemon looked like me. Okay, they did this man dirty. Shortly thereafter we arrive at the 4th gym, the Lavaridge gym, led by gym leader Flannery. And yep, I'm sure you can guess what my plan is, as now we can 2-hit KO her Numel, and with all our defense investment we just need to avoid the 15% chance for her to get stabbed 4 times super effective magnitude 9 or 10. And she gets the 9. No! But Lenovo somehow survives on 15 HP on a sliver before our berry. Okay, I guess my calcs were slightly off as we land both rollouts to KO it. Oh, 1 down, but we need to hit 3 more 90% accurate moves. And trust me, these are the best odds you could possibly have against Flannery no matter what strat you try with this team. Her Slugma also gets nailed by 1, then her Camrupt, who isn't weak to it, nonetheless gets taken down by a stab 240 power move from a base 70 attack Pokemon. Just 1 more. We need the stab super effective 480 power move to obliterate her ridiculously bulky Torkoal, and wham! The hyperspeed attack devastates it and wins us the battle. Oh man, I can't explain how nervous I was during that, especially when that magnitude 9 hit, but we actually got through it. I was honestly expecting us to have to do several attempts to get past her, especially given that Watson walls us so hard, but wow, our pathway has been cleared just a little bit more. Hey, is anyone home?
Hello there.
And way back at Slateport, we can now grab the hidden power TM from this vendor, which might just be helpful for an upcoming encounter perhaps. Okay, honestly, making us go all the way back to Petalburg from Lava Ridge for the next gym without Fly is absolutely criminal, Game Freak. But nonetheless, we make it to the 5th gym leader, our very own father, Norman, the normal type specialist. With us resisting his type, I'm not too concerned, but he definitely has some threats that we should keep in mind. He leads with his Spinda as I get Dell on the field. Knowing he's a 2-hit KO no matter what, I go for Air Cutter for better accuracy, then he uses Teeter Dance to confuse us, but our Persimberry cures us. We then miss our Steel Wing unfortunately, as I was hoping for a possible defense raise, but Facade hardly touches us before we land the second to KO him. His Vigoroth could hardly do anything against us either with Skarmory's insane physical defense, and we also got a defense raise from one of our hits. And while we have the opportunity, I also used Agility to raise our speed for a particular reason. He did Hyper Potion at one point, but in the end, Dell still had 2/3 health as he went down. Then in comes his Linoon, and this is the reason I boosted our speed, as we can hit him just to half where he can no longer use Belly Drum to instantly maximize his attack, which actually would have been scary, and that means we can outspeed him on the next turn too to take down that threat. Incredible performance here. Then in comes his ace, Slacking with Truant, having a ridiculous base 160 attack stat. Regardless, I go for Steel Wing, which doesn't do much, and then he uses Counter, and we survive on just 6 HP on a sliver. I'm gonna be honest, I was only thinking about Feint Attack and Facade, plus having our defense boost, I forgot Counter entirely, which ignores boosts and deals double the HP damage done to it. Okay, change of plans. I hit him once more while he's loafing around, and then go into Hitachi to tank Facade and hit a Metal Claw. Then, what I do is swap to Psychic on every turn that he can attack, that way he can't use Counter on us since it only works on physical moves. This works really well, and we do get the special defense drop on the second one, but he did use Yawn on us, so I had to switch into Lenovo after bringing him to the red, and he Hyper Potioned again. Regardless, from here I can load up on Iron Defenses knowing he'll try Counter while we do so, as all of his moves are resisted. Then I land the Rock Tomb to drop his speed. Metal Claw does surprisingly little though, bringing him to half after 2 hits. Then I decide to go back into Hitachi fearing those counters, landing a few Psychics for the eventual victory, only being brought to about half. A long process, but we played that relatively safely aside from that one counter that hit Dell. 5 badges. That win also has Wally's dad give us the Surf HM, which is going to be amazing for a reason that you'll see shortly. And with the Heat badge in hand, I remembered we could now make it to the 3rd level of the Trick House, where upon completion we get awarded with the Hard Stone to boost rock moves, perfect for Lenovo. Back in Mauville, after getting the basement key from Watson, we can now use Surf to access New Mauville, the only place in the game we can get our next encounter, Magnemite, who, damn, goes nuts when he enters battle. Holy cow. I catch him and name him Intel, and he has a Lax plus defense and minus special defense nature, not bad. Not only that, but we can also circumvent the game corner by having Watson thank us with a Thunderbolt TM. Awesome. After running into Steven again and finally getting access to citrus berries, our newly caught Intel fully evolves into a Magneton, a Pokemon I'm imagining will be a great help for our cause. And his debut battle is a wicked one against Aqua admin Shelly in the Weather Institute, and being one of those rare Steel-type special attackers, we're unaffected by Intimidate, and with a stab 95 power Thunderbolt from a base 120 special attack Pokemon, we fry both her Carvanha and Mightyena in 1 hit each. Now that's what I like to see. Dear goodness, as if May wasn't already a nightmare enough for us, they just had to throw in the ominous thunderstorm on Route 119, didn't they? However, this time we are much better equipped to handle her, having Intel to lead against her Pelipper and fry it with a 4x super effective Thunderbolt. Then in comes a big threat, Combuskin. However, in this battle it happens to have no fire moves, so we actually have a good counter, Dell, who also has Kenai, so not even her Sand Attack works, as 2 Air Cutters wipe her off the map despite her bulking up. Much better than last time. Her final Pokemon is then Lombre, who is also weak to flying, so it was really not much of an issue. Okay, this team is coming together now. We also get the Fly HM for winning, a perfect upgrade for Dell, and no more having to run around everywhere. Gosh, this game is so beautiful. It's no wonder people like working with it most when creating fan games and ROM hacks. It's quite a timeless style. Now we're going to do something interesting here and go past Fort Tree towards Lily Cove, which yes is accessible at this point. Why, you might ask? Well, we need something in the department store, but May is blocking the way. With that said, we can pretty much take her down in the same way as before, with the only difference being her Tropius, which was pretty hard-walled by Intel regardless. Her Combuskin did cause a bit more trouble with bulking up and her healing, but Dell took marginal damage and then was able to use Fly for enough power to one-hit KO her now fully evolved Ludicolo. Amazing. That's the last of that evil run ender. Now, we didn't need to get in here for the TMs that they sell, but rather something or someone on the rooftop, the substitute move tutor who I get to teach it to Intel for the next gym. Speaking of which, while preparing for it, we have an awesome evolution as Lenovo finally evolves into a Lairon right near the level cap. And with that, it's time to take on the 7th gym leader, Winona the Flying Trainer. The big threat here is her dragon dancing Altaria that has Earthquake, but I lead with Intel regardless. I go for substitute right away, and unfortunately Swablu's Perish Song can go through it, but she uses Mirror Move as I anticipated. So a T-Bolt one-hit KOs her from there. Safely behind our substitute, we can now tank an Earthquake from Altaria, but two things go wrong here. Not only did I think we'd outspeed, but I also thought we'd be able to 2-hit KO, neither of which are the case. Uh-oh. Either way, Dell could be switched into her next one, and then wall the heck out of her as she only has Dragon and Ground moves. So even though we did get brought below half at one point, Steel Wing and Fly make a great combo to eventually take her down after our berry helps out. Not only that, but her next Pokemon is Tropius, so a couple Flies also do that thing in as well. From there, both her Pelipper and Skarmory were handled with ease by Intel, who could switch in on the former who was using Protect, getting the free one-hit KOs. Without Intel, Skarmory would have been a lot of trouble, so I'm glad we got him when we did. Atop Mount Pyre, I accidentally clicked and said yes to the old man with the orbs telling us a story, and goodness gracious, this guy goes on forever. Just non-stop yapping. At the end of the Team Magma hideout, we encountered the legendary Groudon before then being challenged by Maxie again, but strangely enough, this time his Camerupt has no fire moves, just Rock Slide and Takedown, so Intel could take down Mightyena with ease, then Dell could be switched in for Camerupt's Earthquake immunity and duke it out with him, being brought to about half before taking him down. Then comes his now fully evolved Crobat, for which I had a plan. I knew he'd go for Confuse Ray, so I switch in Intel with a Person Berry attached, predicting it and responding with the Thunderbolt to end Maxie's entire career. Well, except for his position in the Pokemon World Battle League, of course. Let's go! A trip across the seas then has us arrive in Moss Deep City where the 7th gym awaits. While preparing for it, with the level cap much higher now, Lairon can evolve exactly at 42 into a monster fully evolved Aggron. Wicked cool. With that said, I'm not sure anything's enough for the 7th gym leaders, Tate and Liza. Yes, we technically resist their type specialties, Psychic, but they lead with the Claydol with Stab Earthquake of all things. It took me a while to plan for this, but I think I've got something. I lead with Dell and Hitachi as Xatu and Claydol are out on their side. And here's the key. I taught Dell the Torment TM from Slateport, meaning I know Claydol can't use Earthquake twice in a row so long as it stays on the field. And then I taught Hitachi Protect from the Lily Cove department store. That way, Dell is immune to it and I can just Protect every other turn when I know they're going to use it again. Amazing, as I also taught Hitachi Return from Cosmo and Fall Arbor. Alternating this strategy with Dell also slamming him with Fly has us bring him into the red, but then they Hyper Potion it fully from there. The cool thing is that Fly keeps triggering them into trying to attack Dell while he's in the air. So another few rounds of this has us safely take Claydol out thanks to a Person Berry attachment on Dell, so Xatu couldn't confuse him either. Although both our Pokemon did end up taking some damage from their respective Psychics in the process. But then, I thought that right side was limited to Lunatone, but apparently they can swap them? I never knew that, as in comes Solrock next in the sun with Flamethrower. Not good. I decide I need to switch in Lenovo, who's not weak to fire, but he gets hit with a massive Psychic from a calm-minded Xatu, but then Solrock had gone for Hitachi with Flamethrower and I had Protected. Whew, thank goodness, as the sun now goes down. That was a close one. Xatu then sets up Sunny Day again though, and I was like, no! But Solrock went for it as well. Oh man, I thought these two were supposed to have good synergy being psychic and all. They've got to get it together. So a double Metal Claw from both our Pokemon tears Solrock a new one. In comes their Lunatone at this point, after which I hyper-focus on Xatu with Rock Tomb and Return, as Psychic hits Lenovo, and as I thought, we have enough health to live it, and Lunatone went for Calm Mind. Sheesh. That gives us the chance to then knock out Xatu, leaving Lunatone as their sole Pokemon. With Lenovo now at low health, I switch back into Dell, who gets hit below half by Psychic, then Hitachi's Metal Claw does over half on him even after his berry activates. With Dell at a risky range, I make the switch into Intel, and Hitachi isn't able to KO since he gets put to sleep before we can. Nonetheless, Intel can now unleash with an outspeeded Thunderbolt, but it still doesn't take him down. Goodness gracious. Fortunately, we do resist his only attacking move, Psychic, so even after another Hyper Potion, looks like Intel had enough, as a crit Thunderbolt gets the job done from there. Holy, there were two spots there that we definitely could have lost him on in, but that Torment strat came in clutch for sure, as there really was no other safe option. In the Moss Deep Space Center, we then have a double battle against Maxie and Admin Tabitha alongside Steven, and just for funsies, I decide to match his team entirely. Metang, Skarmory, and Aqua. We're basically the same person. It's hilarious that we can do this. Double Metang both having clear body to nullify Mightyana's Intimidate led us off to a great start, and I can freely switch in Skarmory with no attack drop now. Using Fly repeatedly in double battles is fantastic, often causing them to waste turns while we're in the air. And Steven setting up Reflect was a huge benefit, as a few flies hurt Camera up to the point where Metang can Metal Claw it, then Fly comes down on Golbat too. We resist pretty much everything that they have, and they keep targeting Metang with their status moves. Then we're in the air to avoid Confuse Ray and can barely miss the KO on Golbat after Metang takes itself out. Well, that's helpful. Turns out Steven has some weird special set on his Aggron with Thunder, Solar Beam, and Dragon Claw. Very weird, but it helps in taking Golbat down before another Mightyena comes in to intimidate. So I go into Aggron as well. Man, this looks funny. But then we get double swaggered. I didn't even know that was possible, but that means our attack is now +4, and we make it through to Metal Claw the hell out of the new Mightyena, snap out of Confusion to nail the second one as well, then in comes Camerupt, which has Earthquake. So I go back into Dell, who's immune, and a few flies and an Air Cutter do the trick from there, as he doesn't have a fire move. His final Pokemon is then Crobat, as Aggron charges up Solar Beam, then our Air Cutter followed by Steven's Thunder do the trick. That was a wonky battle in every conceivable way, wasn't it? Okay, there definitely is a big difference between Tabitha in this game and the remakes. Uh-oh, it looks like Archie's submarine crashed. Rip, guess that's what you get for stealing it. After picking up the Stellar Earthquake TM, it turns out the man survived somehow. Let's quickly wipe him off the map with Intel, shall we? Yup, the clean sweep with massive power Thunderbolt with the help of the magnet item, which you can get from the Trick House after Badge 7. Only thing that caused a bit of trouble was Crobat's Confusion, but it turns out Intel just did not give a damn. In the quaint yet beautiful Pacific Log Town, we can then pick up a second Return TM, great for our physical attackers and especially an upcoming encounter, before we then encounter none other than Rayquaza at the Sky Pillar. Asking the Sky Daddy to come over to our place in Sutopolis, he calms his children down, and now all is well. What a story. A narrative masterpiece if I do say so myself. Right before the next gym, we have an Unreal Evolution as our starter Hitachi can finally fully evolve into a monster Metagross. I can't wait to unleash this thing on the region. Well, with that in our pocket, it's time for the 8th and final gym leader, Juan the Water Specialist. A man of style and elegance, and also annoying stuff. Just annoying. Starting with his Love Disc, which has Attract and Sweet Kiss, but leading with Intel, we're technically immune to both, being genderless and having a Persim Berry, so we heal off the Sweet Kiss and respond with a stab super effective magnet boosted Thunderbolt. But then in comes his Whiscash with Earthquake, so naturally I have to go into Dell for the immunity, the only thing on our team capable of withstanding it safely. From there I battle it out with Fly versus Rain Dance boosted Water Pulse, and at one point I even tried an Aerial Ace to bring him outside of a range of a potion, but I guess Dell's too powerful, as it slammed him into the red. We then repeat the same process, and I'm desperately hoping we don't get confused, and our berry helps us stay in a safe range to then Aerial Ace him into the red, get hit by Water Pulse once more, and no crit and no confusion, so the rain goes down before we take him out. Nice. Then comes Celio, for which I switch into Intel, knowing he'll use Aurora Beam, which Intel resists, then another Thunderbolt seals the deal for that seal, as well as the lobster that follows. Then in comes his final Pokemon, his ace, and my channel's mascot Pokemon, Kingdra. Why must you be so annoying? As he double teams right away, as I went for Substitute thinking that he would. That way, if he spams it, we can try to get free hits off, but nope, Water Pulse breaks it on the next turn. Then Thunderbolt brings him low at least. So weird how a Steel and Electric type doesn't resist water in my opinion, but anyway, he then uses Rest, but fortunately we hit another to bring him back down. He then hits us again, but I stay in knowing my plan of teaching Skarmory Aerial Ace since it can't miss to tackle Kingdra's Whisker's evasiveness kinda got shot due to Whiscash's HP range, so I stay in, just hoping we don't get crit, as that would straight up end anything I switch in anyway. And we don't, so Intel is left on 22 HP and fries that thing with Thunderbolt to win our 8th and final badge. Huge. Eager as ever, I immediately make my way to Victory Road where our final encounter is to be found. However, we can't get it until we access the basement, which Wally is blocking off. But with the Elite 4 level cap so high, I leveled up Lenovo to 50, and with a great move pool, including teaching him Earthquake to handle Magneton and resistance against most of his Mons and their moves, Lenovo straight up pulls off the clean sweep through his team and shows his true potential. Love to see it. Now having access to the Victory Road basement, we can search forever to find a 5% encounter, one that they really tried to hide in Emerald for some reason, as you can get it right after the first gym in Ruby and Sapphire, Mawile, which I catch and nickname Huawei, and who has a quiet plus special attack and minus speed nature. Pretty bad, but I'll take any encounter we can get at the moment. With that, we arrive at our final destination, the Hoenn Region Pokemon League. After fulfilling the rest of our EVs, getting any remaining TMs and items we might need, and strategizing like a madman, let's take on the Elite Four. The first Elite Four member is Sydney, the Dark-type trainer, a type that we resist. However, his team is definitely kind of tricky, but I came up with a stellar plan using our new lead Mawile. You see, we have Hyper Cutter, meaning we can't get our attack lowered by Mighty Enna's Intimidate, but not only that, I taught him the Taunt TM from the Trick House, predicting and nullifying sand attacks as he has all resisted moves and I knew he'd use it. Amazing, as I unleash with 2 Silk Scarf boosted returns to KO it, then Huawei goes on a rampage. 2-hit KOing Groudon thanks to it using Swords Dance and not Surf, but then Shiftry hits us with Swagger. Huawei hits himself in confusion, but I want the sweep. I stay in knowing he can't KO us with Extra Sensory, his only move, and he double teams, but Huawei not only snaps out of confusion and has +2 attack to work with, but he hits it and decimates it, along with his Cacturn and his subsequent Absol too. Now that's what I call a wicked debut performance. The second Elite Four member is Phoebe, the Ghost type expert, again a type that we resist in this gen. With crazy status moves everywhere though, I don't want to risk anything, so I powered up Hitachi as best I could, leveling him right up to the cap and attaching the XP share on Mawile so that we don't overlevel him. This way we have enough power to smash her Dusclops with spell tag boosted Shadow Ball, which is physical in this gen. Then her second comes in, which I was expecting a 2-hit KO, but okay, a crit. Huge. Even Shadow Ball wouldn't have KO'd us as it's neutral against Metagross. Her Banette then suffers the same fate, and for Sableye we have 100 power Meteor Mash we learned right at level 55, smashing it to the ground, and her final Banette was sent to the Shadow Realm by another Shadow Ball. Go Hitachi, go! The next Elite Four member is Glacia, the Ice Specialist, another type we have an advantage against, and here I led with Huawei against Tresilio, hitting it right to half with return before it uses Hail. Another hit barely doesn't KO on a Sliver, and then she hits a Body Slam and paralyzes us. No! That ruins my whole plan. She full restores, but I need to continue pursuing this, so we land 2 more and fortunately get the range this time. In comes Walrein next instead of Glalie, which I was expecting. Plan cancelled, as I go into Intel, who thankfully tanks Surf on a 3rd before his berry and can unleash with a stab super effective Thunderbolt 1-hit KO. Then comes Glalie, which I know we can't KO, so I go into Lenovo to eat up Icy Wind. Then a couple of Metal Claws do it in with us getting hit to around half. Her second Celio then comes in, and with it only having resisted ice moves, I feel safe going back into Intel. And she went for Hail anyway, so Thunderbolt zaps it in 1 hit. Her final Pokemon is a second Glalie, for which I switch into Lenovo again, tank an Ice Beam, and after the Hail, our berry activates, showing me we can even survive a crit one, so I stay in, hit a Rock Tomb to bring her low and drop her speed. That way I know we can outspeed and take her down with a couple higher accuracy Metal Claws after she heals on the next turns. Not bad. But now it's time for the 4th and final Elite Four member, Drake, the Dragon Master. And straight up, no matter how much I planned, I did not see a way out of this. Let's try our best strategy. Against a Shelgon, I lead with Huawei, knowing he often goes for Protect first turn, so I go for Iron Defense. Now, I figured he'd Dragon Claw every turn for sure with our defense raised so much, but he ruins my plan with us at +6, using and landing Rock Tomb to drop our speed. Oh no, I hit him once with return, then baton passed the defense to Magneton. But that also comes with the lowered speed now. Brutal, but at least we can substitute, eat up a Dragon Claw without breaking it, then hidden power him, which turns out to be a 40 power dragon move. Not great power at all, but an okay type for this run when it comes to this battle at least. Then in it comes, his Salamence, which has Flamethrower. Just great for our team, isn't it? With our lowered speed, I know my plan won't work as our sub breaks and we land the Thunder Wave, but knowing we need intel for later, I decide to risk it and go into Lenovo, and Flamethrower hits and gets a crit. No! Our one Pokemon not weak to it and we get crit. Our berry heals us just to the point that I think we can survive another, so I hit a Rock Tomb, then he stays paralyzed. Whew. But his berry heals him right to the point that we can't KO anymore. I have to go for it though, and it barely doesn't KO, and then he lands one, and we survive in the red. I then went for Metal Claw, desperately hoping for the attack raise after he full restores, but nope. Well, with nothing left to do, with terrible luck, I go for Rock Tomb and hit him super low, but now Lenovo gets taken down. Our first death of the run. That was incredibly unfortunate in every way. That crit hurt a ton. From here though, Lenovo's sacrifice allows us to get Hitachi out there for the revenge KO of the biggest threat. And I knew this would bait in his Flygon for the Earthquake, but it also has Flamethrowers, so Dell is a no-go. I hit return for over half, and then Earthquake hits, and no crit, so we tank it on just below half. Now I switch in Dell for immunity, and then hit a Steel Wing just to avoid bringing him in full restore range, after Flamethrower hit us to not quite half, thankfully. He then hit us again, and Dell tanks it on just 19 HP in the red, and clutches the Aerial Ace KO. From there, I know I can't switch in intel freely against Kingdra, so I instead send out Huawei for the sack. Our second death, but a necessary one, as this gives us the chance to switch in intel for the Thunderbolt KOs of both it and his following Altaria, thanks to the former wasting a turn Dragon Dancing, with us being left on 22 HP before our berry and getting a crit to assure the victory, even though Metagross could have handled Altaria's resisted moves. Well, that was a doozy, but we pulled through with 3 severely weakened Pokemon. And up next, the champion of the Hoenn region, Wallace the Water Trainer, with just 3 Pokemon remaining. Oh boy, let's give it our best shot. I lead with intel against his Wailord and can at least nail it with the magnet-boosted Thunderbolt one-hit KO. Then I thought Whiscash would come in, but right, Gyarados technically has an even stronger Earthquake than it, good for us, as boom, another zapping. Then comes the Whiscash, for which I switch into Dell for the immunity. A few attacks then do him in after he only hit us with 1 Surf thanks to him using Amnesia instead. But a big threat comes in now, Tentacruel, who has Hydro Pump of all things, meaning no safe way to get intel back out there. Ultimately, I risk the switch into Hitachi to tank it on just over half, then Return does over half on him, then he lands another one, and we tank it on just 38 HP so we can proceed to take him down. But then, in comes Ludicolo, yet another huge threat who's not weak to electric due to its part grass typing. And it was a tough decision either way between Dell and Hitachi, but ultimately, Hitachi performs a sacrifice, nailing him to below half before succumbing to a Surf. However, this gives enough range for us to then outspeed and take him down with Intel's Thunderbolt, after which his final Pokemon, Milotic, comes in and survives one somehow. Then Surf isn't able to take Intel down as we can unleash with one final attack to win the championship. Alright, that was utterly insane. Such a tough Pokemon League run with us scraping by to get the victory, but it's not over yet. One massive challenge remains. Oh hey look, our dad is home. Having become the champion, he finally loves us. Oh wait, okay, never mind. Bye. Well, performing the sad act of depositing all our dead boys, we have to focus on the major post-game challenge, for which you'd imagine we'd have no hope with only these 2 remaining, but there might yet be one savior. You see, only after becoming champion you can unlock a secret area of the Safari Zone known as Area 6, which unlocks cool post-game Pokemon like Aipom and Teddiursa, but more importantly for our cause, a Pineco, which I catch successfully on the 5th ball and name Nokia. Nokia has a lonely plus attack and minus defense nature, half good, half bad, but it'll have to do. In no time, Nokia evolves into a defensive monster, Fortress, a Pokemon I really love. And after an insane amount of training and strategic preparation, we travel deep into Meteor Falls, where the former champion of the Hoenn region awaits Steven Stone for the ultimate battle. Let's do this. Against his Skarmory lead, I go in with our own Skarmory. Knowing he can't do much against us apart from setting up spikes, I set up 3 layers of spikes of our own against him. Then switch in our newly caught Nokia. Now I can rapid spin all of his spikes away, amazing, before switching in Intel to safely get the Thunderbolt one-hit KO. Beautiful. In comes Aggron next with Earthquake, as spikes hurts him badly, so I go into our Buggy Gal who tanks it well, especially with the help of leftovers now. This is a back and forth Thunder versus 4x super effective Dig, and we eventually emerge the victor with us having half health in the end. But then in comes a massive threat, Claydol with Earthquake, and I kid you not, our only way to hurt it with our Pokemon is Bide. That's right, after getting hit with 2 Earthquakes, Nokia builds up damage from them and unleashes with Bide, but it's not quite enough. After he sets up Light Screen and Reflect the next round after full restoring, we then get hit with 2 more, recovering all the while, and with just 32 HP in the red, land another to bring him low. After recovery and him hitting us to 8 HP this time, we land a Rapid Spin, and it's not quite enough as he's left on like 1 HP. And here, in case we need the sack, I switch into Skarmory for immunity, that way we can safely outspeed and KO him from there. In comes Cradilly next, and after spikes damage we can slam him a few times between him healing with Stab super effective Steel Wing, getting the KO and the defense raise on 1-2. Then comes our Moldo, who after spikes hurting him gets ravaged by a single Steel Wing as well. Del, you legend. But then in comes his final Pokemon, Metagross, and I know what I must do. Spikes hurt him on the entry, and then I hit 2 Steel Wings to avoid activating his berry, getting hit with a Psychic and getting the special defense drop in the process. And knowing he'll never use Earthquake here, I take the opportunity to swap into Intel, who tanks a Psychic with ease and then lands a Thunderbolt, and the range is perfect as we take him down and win the ultimate battle without losing a single one of our 3 Mons. Wow, we actually did it. We not only became champion, but fully beat the story of Pokemon Emerald with only Steel types. A run that I think it's safe to say is damn near impossible. Our Pokemon performed incredibly. This was one of the most fun runs I think I've ever done. Type-wise, I think Intel the Magneton performed best, but honestly, Del was very clutch too. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time for another challenge video.